Alright guys, so I've been doing some digging and I've got the information on our not a shiny Lucario friend over here, and it seems likely that Zeraora is actually an 8th generation Pokemon. Now before you guys get all crazy on me, you gotta hear me out because the Pokemon Company has pulled stuff like this in the past. They love teasing new Pokemon before the generation comes out, so it's at least plausible. So what I want you guys to do, watch the video, please leave a like, leave a comment, share this with everyone because this could be massive for Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch as well as the 8th generation. So let's go and start it off. Now, what I do want to say is that this is not like a 100%, I fully believe that Zeraora is going to be 8th gen, but what I'm saying is that it's definitely a possibility. Not 100% my chips on the table, but something to actually look into because the Pokemon Company, they love revealing Pokemon early. We saw this a ton in the 1st generation. Even the 2nd and 3rd generations started to die off as we got like more information spread for the newer generations. But I mean, that is still pretty significant. And then we even go into Magearna, a mythical Pokemon, revealed before the announcement of the 7th generation. It's not in the games like we have with Zeraora, but the information, the thing is there. So that's what I want to do. We're going to go back to this list because it does get pretty crazy. But what about the games? So first off, Megalodios and Megalodios, they were in Pokemon X and Y. We had Volcanion, which didn't even get revealed until after the announcement of, actually until after Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire was released. We didn't even have the reveal of Volcanion, and that was in Pokemon X and Y as well. So we know that they put things early on, but that doesn't transcend a generation. However, putting a Mega that doesn't exist to suggest Megas in the next Pokemon game that wasn't even Pokemon Z version is pretty crazy. However, there are a few things that might go against, Zeraora being in the 8th generation, because Zeraora has working, programmable moves. Plasma Fist is actually, okay, this is where it starts getting pretty weird. Because Plasma Fist actually broke Ion Deluge, and they recently need to do a patch for Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, because Plasma Fist effectively has the same kind of effect, but it's a damaging move, and by doing that, Ion Deluge just failed every time you used it before we had the patch. So it seems like something was tested with Plasma Fist, and it doesn't seem like it's a fully working move. So maybe Zeraora, all that was just tested inside of Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, but it might actually not be implemented because we've seen this before with 1,000 Waves and 1,000 Arrows. Everyone's like, oh, Z version's confirmed. There's way too much hiding in Pokemon XY, Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. You look in the data mine, well, we have Zygarde with these extra moves that were also in Pokemon X and Y that didn't even get shown, that weren't even accessible until the 7th generation. As you can see right here, damage dealing ground type move Generation 6 was not legitimately available until 7th generation, one of the signature moves of Zygarde. And then that led into Zygarde's form and the cells and all that stuff. The cells were teased in the anime of X and Y before we even had the 7th generation. So Game Freak likes giving us a lot of stuff early, but this is the biggest jump we've seen yet. This is a Pokemon inside of a game from a different generation before that even comes out, except we've seen this before. So what I'm saying is, this could be the ultimate just coming together of every little aspect. Every aspect of a Pokemon that has been revealed early or before its generation is all culminating into the Zeraora, because we've also had some really weird ones as well, like Munchlax in Destiny Deoxys. Destiny Deoxys, look at that, premiered July 17th, 2004. With Diamond and Pearl being released in Japan over 2 years later, September 28th, 2006. And what about the announcement of Diamond and Pearl? Because this is where we start getting into a weird thing, is it possible for the Generation 8 Pokemon game to be announced before Zeraora is even revealed, even if Zeraora is a 7th generation Pokemon? We're dealing with cross-generational shifts in Pokemon announcements and unreleased stuff. It gets weird, but Pokemon just has a lot of unreleased and pre-released stuff hanging around all the time. So I went on to Wikipedia, and it says that with Pokemon Dash's release and the release of the Nintendo DS, the development of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl was announced at the end of the calendar quarter for 2004. So looking at Pokemon Dash was released December 2004. So even after the movie, remember, July 2004. So that means Munchlax was revealed before the announcement of the game that was even in. That's some pretty crazy stuff to consider. And it was also just one of these things where it's like, wait a second. How's that gonna work? Because you hear the name, you're like, what? That's the pre-evolution of Snorlax? Is that even possible? Alright, we know a new Pokemon game is coming. That's pretty much, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when with Pokemon now. And especially around the 3rd going to 4th generation, the franchise was strong enough, had enough of a fan base, people loved it. You knew that Pokemon, and even today, we feel that Pokemon is going to go on for almost forever. I mean, even in some of the Pokemon movies, they're like the world of Pokemon, hundreds, maybe even thousands of species. So they always leave that door open, and I feel like we can get Generation 9, 10, break 1,000 Pokemon, and that seems like a possibility at this rate. So let's keep it going with what's going on with some other Pokemon games and other Pokemon announcements. Then we have Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. This is a game that was in the 3rd generation that actually has data for Munchlax available inside of it, and the same goes for Bonsly as well. This is still more than a year away from the actual release of Diamond and Pearl. Another thing interesting is that we know the Switch game exists. We know that potential Generation 8, like we don't know what it is, if it's Diamond and Pearl remakes, Generation 8, or some kind of weird continuation Generation 7. We don't really know the place of it, but it's pretty fair to say new console, Generation 8 kind of follows all the other trends. It's already been announced. So we're having this like extra half a year almost delayed announcement of this new Pokemon game. So it puts us in a lot of really weird positions. Like we know it exists. We know it's coming 2018, but we still have Zeraora hanging around. So what does that mean? And like if you look right here, so trivia for Munchlax. Munchlax appeared in 3 games before its generation. XD Gale of Darkness, the first Mystery Dungeon, and Pokemon Dash. And see, that's the thing. Like, Munchlax in Pokemon Dash, and then that was kind of like the announcement, like, oh, by the way, you're going to find Munchlax in here, so that means Diamond and Pearl. It's still years off, though. So, like, waiting 2 years for that announcement was still pretty crazy. Although obtainable through hacking in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, it has an index number. Unlike Bonsly, it's also unable to be used as it was not programmed to be used in battle. So there's also an index number when it comes to the usage of Munchlax this is a 4th generation Pokemon with an index number in a 3rd generation game. I also don't know like the state of the Pokemon community and speculation, data mining, and information gathering. So were people even speculating, like I wasn't in it at the time, so maybe people were even speculating this is an addition to the 3rd generation and not necessarily 4th generation because it was so far ahead of its time and then ended up being 4th generation. So next generation, like what could happen with Zeraora. Then we have index number. So the index number is kind of weird. Like right now, we've only been talking about mostly the first 3 generations, but we're going to snowball this into the 7th generation as well here in a bit, so stay with me. But there's this weird thing because the 1st generation was actually split into 2 generations. This has been confirmed in an interview with Shigeki Morimoto. He confirmed that there were originally going to be 190 Pokemon in Generation 1. This lines up with everything else. The reason why we have all these 2nd generation Pokemon being shown so early in the 1st generation anime, why Ho-Oh is in the 1st episode of Pokemon. I feel like that was actually the question that Morimoto was answering in the interview. Like, hey, what was Ho-Oh doing there? It's like, you got me, that theory's correct. And then you can also see the index numbers that programmed into the Generation 1 Pokemon games are the index numbers for other Pokemon. So this is why we have Missing Note for Scizor, Shuckle, that they were created before a lot of the other Pokemon in the 1st generation, but they were actually delayed until the inevitable 2nd generation of Pokemon. If we already have this much work, you know, the announcement, 2018 Nintendo Switch Pokemon game is happening. So because of that, there's about the same level of anticipation here as we've seen with Pokemon in the past for the 3rd and 4th generation and the 1st and 2nd generations as well. So they already, by the time Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon was released, they already have the 8th generation Pokemon designs probably finalized, if not the entire Pokedex by that point. So because of that, yeah, there's already enough development. Years and years are stacking onto this, and it does get pretty crazy. But then there's also super incredibly ridiculously early reveals as well. Kecleon Caper, July 5th, 2001. Mega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, November 21st, 2002. So we have the anime. Remember, anime, that's going to take months to develop and storyboard and actually animate the episodes and stuff. So that means these Pokemon designs were finalized years before they were actually introduced into the next Pokemon games. Now, we don't know if this was intended to be a future shiny on that purple Kecleon or what ended up happening there, but what were these guys doing here? It shows that quite a bit for the 2nd and 3rd generations. That we had Pikachu's Pikablu, we had Wailmer, we had all these Pokemon being teased super early. Pretty crazy how the anime kind of pseudo-forecasts the next Pokemon generation before the announcements actually come through. And also going back to the 4th generation, 2006, February 16th. So we've had X and Y, that was January 6th, I think, or January 8th. So once January begins, you know, January, February, we can get the generation announcement at any time before then. And this is also showing these similarities that we've already seen, that we have this pseudo announcement like, don't worry guys, it's coming at some point, and then we get the hard announcement. So hard announcement for Pokemon Switch 2018 could be whenever at this point. So where does Zeraora fall into this? You know, I've been showing you guys a lot of this weirdness. Also, Manaphy. Manaphy is another one to talk about. It was in Pokemon Ranger. That was actually in a really weird place as well, because Pokemon Ranger came out after the announcement, this Diamond and Pearl announcement, in March 2006, and we had a 4th generation Pokemon inside of it as well, and it was a mythical Pokemon, Magearna. Mythical Pokemon, Magearna. As we can see right here, it was leaked in the March issue of CoroCoro, released on February 10th, 2016. The official Magearna reveal was on February 14th, 2016, which was 2 weeks before the actual 7th generation announcement as well. So we had Magearna, a 7th generation Pokemon, shown before the 7th generation existed. How does this tie in with Zeraora? Well, I'm pretty sure that if this is, like, another thing that doesn't absolutely kill it off the bat is that Game Freak could be screwing with us. We data mined Oras. We data mined Sun and Moon. Likely, we're going to get Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon as well. So what they did was they gave us a little bit of a teaser. This is them playing the game. They know they can't stop the hacking, at least on Nintendo 3DS. They're probably going to do a much better job on Nintendo Switch. So they put this guy in here. Are we going to be thinking movie? Like, this is going to cause such an uproar. This is going to cause such a stir. It's going to cause people to be more interested in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, while also promoting the 8th generation games as well. What if Zeraora isn't even a mythical? I think, actually, never mind. I was about to say, I think it's actually classified as a mythical inside of the Pokedex. That'd be weird if this was just like a normal Pokemon in the 8th generation. But I'm thinking, like, I might be getting a little too ahead of myself right there. But Game Freak, they know that we're breaking the game. They know that's being data mined all the time. So because of that, what if they put this in here just to screw with us? That instead of, like, this is another announcement that they did, our June announcement. They did the June announcement before Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon came out. So now they're just saying, here, have a little bit of an extra taste until we actually announce the Switch games, you know? What do you guys think about it? I think the biggest takeaway is that it is not impossible. That yes, anything is possible, and Pokemon, they break the impossible all the time with like Ultra Beast and not doing Z version and all these other weird things that have been happening in the past. But I mean, it's not even like a 99% impossibility, you know, it's not like there's a 1% chance. I think it's much more likely than that, and anyone saying otherwise is really just being ignorant to the facts. The Pokemon Company does this, and there's a lot of, you know, possibilities that line up with things we've seen for other things, and I don't think it's out of the question that Game Freak gives us this little teaser as a response to the data mining. So there we go, guys. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. I think this is pretty cool.